Welcome to this bonus episode of the Arctic Crafts podcast. My name is Bente and I'm coming to you from Vesterålen, northern Norway, where I live with my husband and 3 cats. You can find me on Instagram as Arctic Crafts, on Facebook and Etsy as Arctic Crafts by Bente, and on Ravelry as Arctic Crafts 65. And as I was saying at the beginning, this is a bonus episode. So if you want to see what I normally do, you just go to the channel and you can watch any of my normal episodes. I did a poll on Instagram stories if anybody would be interested in seeing some of my knitting books. And I really have a lot of knitting books and some crochet ones as well. And it seemed like people were interested, so here we go with a bonus episode. It's really hot today, and I've learned from experience that I can't have the fan on while I'm recording, so hopefully I won't be too hot and bothered before I'm finished with this. It probably won't help that I'm drinking coffee, but hopefully I survive. I probably will. Like many other knitters, I have far too many knitting books, and I normally find all my patterns on Ravelry. But going through all my knitting books was sort of a wake-up call, so I think I'm going to be better about using my books. Some of the books I'm going to talk about are books that a lot of people have. Some are maybe not that well known, but we're actually going to start with 2 of my favorite crochet books. These are more resource books than anything, but because they are motifs. Loads and loads of different shapes and sizes, and there's patterns for each and every one of them, so you can either combine them or you can make a blanket with loads of different shapes. Or this is sort of, I was thinking about starting at the beginning and making one of everything, but I don't think so, because there are, as it says here, 144 different ones. And the same person, Edie Eckman, that made this book, also made this book. And it's connector shapes, so it's creative ways of joining these motifs, and there's also different motifs in this one. So she's made other books as well. She's made a book with borders in addition to these 2. So, and this was sort of an Amazon thing, because I was buying this book, and then of course it said underneath, people who bought this book also bought this book, so I of course bought both of them. That's kind of cheeky thing that Amazon does. I'm not talking a lot of all the books. Some of the books I just talk a bit about, and some of them I'm going to go a little more in depth on. This is one of my newest knitting books, Cat Knits. And it's kind of, you know, the Sinister Cat cardigan, or I think it's called the Cattigan. I really love that one. And this is sort of a lot of different patterns, all with a cat motif. You have like that one, a cowl. One of the things in here that I was really wanting to knit, I love this sweater. I'm not sure I love the neckline, but it's easy to use that pattern on a different sweater. And we also have a cardigan. Let's see. In a heavier weight yarn with lots of cats on it. There's cats on the back as well. And speaking of cats, that's Severus Snape. This is what it looks like on the back. So this cardigan might need to happen. And on the front you have a hat with cats on it. This could be a really fun gift knit for some crazy cat lady or crazy cat man, you know, that hat. I'm not sure if he's jealous because I'm talking about other cats than him, but... And we have this book. And this is a book a lot of people have. And as you can see by the stains, this book is a coffee table book in my house because I love just going through it. And this is also sort of, you could easily go through the entire book from the beginning because there's no patterns in here that I don't like. There's socks with color work and cables and lots of different designers, some really well-known ones and some not so well-known ones. And I really love this book. I know there's a 52 weeks of shawls book as well, but I think I have enough shawl patterns. I do have enough sock patterns as well, but I love knitting socks, so it sort of just happened. I just needed this book. So that's that one. Speaking of sock books, The Joy of Socks. I have to be honest, I bought this book because of the title of it and the front cover, because I thought this was such a fun. And these leg warmers, I'm starting to do yoga again. I need those leg warmers. And here I have marked some of the patterns, some of my favorites in here. I really love this colorwork one, stranded colorwork. And as you can see, this is my favorite sort of pattern book with a spiral binding, because you don't have to ruin the book when you want to knit in it. And I also have, and here's an example of the playful nature of this book. Shorties for flip-flops. And those are really fun. I'm not sure I'm ever going to knit them, because when would I wear them? There's also some really nice patterned socks, structured patterned socks as well, both with cables and lace, and you have thigh highs and knee highs, shorties. So that's a fun book. That book I actually knit a pattern from. So I started a pattern from the 52 weeks of socks as well, but I sort of ran out of steam, so I frogged them. This is a beautiful book. Knitted Lace of Estonia. And there's so many beautiful patterns in here. I'm going to show you a few of my favorites. I have several favorites in here. I have this one, and they're knit with lace weight, and they're really, really dainty. And those bubbles are called nups, and there's a really special technique for making those. And this shawl, let's see, I can find this one. I've knit. I knit this in a silver thread for my niece for our wedding. And it looked really, really good. And you have the piece from the cover of the book. That one. And it's so beautiful, and one day maybe I'm going to knit it. What I should do, I should send this book to Liz, Jaded Knitter, because she loves big lace shawls. So I should probably send it to her. She would really love this book. But again, I might just knit some of it myself. If I get some, I was thinking about buying some undyed lace. It would be one of those everlasting projects, but it would be nice to have lying around, I guess. And I also have this book, Scottish Heritage Knits, and I bought that because of cardigan on the cover, and because I've always loved anything Scottish. So I have a few favorites in here too, the ones I'm most likely to knit. We have this Argyle sweater, the Aberdeen Argyle sweater. I think it's so much fun. I love the Argyle pattern, and I might knit this. Maybe not in those colors, but I think I want to knit that sweater. And as you can tell, if I'm going to knit everything I'm saying, I want to knit that, I want to knit that. I don't have to look for any patterns for about 4 or 5 years, because there's a lot of stuff in here I want to knit. And we have this, the Sky Poncho. It's absolutely beautiful, and I'm not sure when I'm going to wear something like that, but it's really gorgeous. I could of course knit it and not make the neck opening and knit it as a blanket, I suppose. That could be something I could do. And the last thing I'm going to show you is the Highland tunic. If you love cables, this is the perfect knit for you. If I'm knitting this, I'm going to omit the collar. I'm going to just make a normal neck opening, and I'm going to knit it with longer sleeves. If I'm knitting it. It's a big if. Some of these books are just lying about so I can go through them, because there's a lot of beautiful knits and a lot of beautiful pictures. And then we come to, I have 3 books for knitting other things than socks with sock yarn. We have this book, and I realize I'm not telling you the authors for all the books, but I'm going to put the name of the books and the authors in the information in the comments below, so you can look for the books yourself instead of linking to, because you can get books all over different shops. You may use Amazon. I use a different shop. I use a Norwegian shop that actually sells international titles. So I'm just going to put the names of the books and the authors down below, so you can look for them yourself. And this is One-skein Wonders for sock yarn. I have more books, but I haven't brought all of them. I brought the ones that I brought my favorite books. But I have several of these, and there's a lot of fun things you can do with sock yarn. There's of course a lot of children's, toddlers and baby clothes in here, because that's something you can use One-skein for. You also have accessories, and you have shawls, of course, One-skein shawls, and scarves, and wraps, and of course socks, because it's sock yarn. So One-skein Wonders with sock yarn. I have this book, Sock Yarn Studio, with different things you can knit with sock yarn. And there's at the end you have 2 skein projects, and there you actually have a really fun stole that you can wear as a cardigan. And you have this really beautiful halter neck and this is what the back looks like, and I really love that one. It's really beautiful. And you have a stranded colorwork scarf, and if you knit this in 2 skeins with color changes, it's going to look absolutely beautiful. And we have this, and this book is falling apart because I've knit all the shawls in this book. This is one of the first knitting books I bought after I started buying lots of commercial self-patterning and self-striping, mostly self-patterning and variegated sock yarn. And I never thought of knitting anything but socks with it, but then I found this book online and I bought it. And as I said, I have knit all the shawls in here and it's falling apart. So what I should do with this book, I should fix it, but I didn't buy a lot for the book. I didn't pay a lot for this book, so maybe I can find these patterns online, but I do have the book. So as I said, I have knit all the shawls in this book. And in this book as well, there's I think it's a couple of shawls in here where you need 2 skeins. Where you need this, for example, you need 2 skeins in different colors. So that's Sockyarn shawls. And now we're on to a really fun book. I've also knit a pair of socks from this book, and it's based on optical illusions. This pair I knit are these, the Ludwig socks. Those I've knit, and they were great fun to knit. And there's of course all different, as I said, it's based on optical illusions. And most of these are kind of complicated with lots of stranded colorwork. And the next pattern I'm going to knit from this book, I have of course not bookmarked that pattern because I didn't think of that. So I have to, this is the one I'm going to knit, because it looks really cool. And I have several skeins of sock yarn where this would work, because these are knit with gradient sock yarn, and they look really cool. So I want to try that pattern. I don't think it's so, I've looked at the pattern and the socks, it looks really complicated, but it isn't. So I really look forward to knitting those socks. And they're called Judith. So that's the Op Art socks. And now we're going to talk a bit about 2 resource books I have that I really love and I've used a lot. You have the Lara Neel Sock Architecture, and what I love about this book is you have patterns in here, of course, and you see that arrow? That means these socks are knit cuff down. And if the arrow goes the other way up, it's toe up. So that's a fun way of telling you if they're top down or. And you have all these different heels. That's what I love about this. You have different toes and different heel constructions and explanation on how to do them. And that's what I've been using this book for. I've been using it to test different kinds of heels, different kinds of toes, to find out what works best for my feet. I'm a bit lazy though, so I have a tendency of either knitting the heel that's in the pattern or using my standard short row or heel flap and gusset heel. So I'm a bit lazy like that. But this pair of socks I need to show you, because these I don't know if you noticed, but these socks have the pattern all the way down, and that looks really fun. And I love the pattern as well. So these socks might be on my needles at some point. Mark my words, at some point, because again, I have loads of whips and a really extensive Ravelry library, so that was a mouthful. So when I'm going to get around to knitting any of these things in my books, and if I had them in a place where I really could see them all the time, maybe I would use them more often, but they're in a bookshelf in our bedroom. So, but again, as I said, when I was going through these to figure out what to show you, I kept thinking I really should knit some of it. And this book I haven't used properly yet. But I'm going to, I have a lot of sweater patterns, really beautiful sweater patterns that I want to knit. But with this book, I can knit a sweater from scratch without needing to, you have patterns in here as well, really beautiful patterns. But what I'm going to use this book for is, you have all these tables all through the book, where you can find your size, and everything is here. How many stitches to cast on, how many times, depending on what neckline you want, what kind of shoulder you want. Everything is here, all the numbers are here, so you see how many stitches to cast on under the sleeves, how many times to do the raglan. So with this book I can knit a sweater from scratch. Just have a sweater quantity of yarn and start from scratch. And I always wanted to try to design a sweater, not necessarily for sale, but design a sweater just for my own, just to have a bit of fun with it. And if I do color work, it says in here how much to cast on for round yoke, for seamless yokes. And I can do a stranded color work pattern that works with that. I could use one of my other resource books that have loads of different knitting patterns in them. I can make my own pattern using graph paper. But again, that's a thing that I've decided I want to do, but when am I supposed to do it? Because I keep casting on sweaters from ready-made patterns that I find on Ravelry. So, and I'm going to sort of quickly talk about this book, because this book is also a book that lots of people have. The Harry Potter Knitting Magic book. I pre-ordered this before it was published. And there's two sweaters in here that I want to knit. It's the buckbeak pullover. I'm not sure it's going to be flattering on me, but I was thinking I might just keep going on the sleeves without increasing, so they're straight. And the other thing I would like to knit in here is the Hermione's Time Turner sweater. But there's loads of fun things in here. There's this, but some of it is really Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter, but I don't have any body to gift this stuff to. So if I'm going to knit something from this book, it has to be something for me. Or maybe I would like to knit some of the stuff is in here. I know a lot of people have knit the Hedwig, the, let's see, the owl. But it looks so complicated, and there's lots of tiny stuff you have to assemble at the end, so I'm not sure I'm going to knit Hedwig, even though she would look really cool on the shelf. And I'm going to spend a little time talking about the last two books. and they're in Norwegian, but I checked. The designer has patterns for sale on Ravelry. For all I know, these books have been translated into English, but I'm not sure. I did some detective work, but I couldn't find. If I find these books translated to English, I'll link them. I'll post them below, but I'll post them with the author and the titles in Norwegian for my Norwegian viewers, and I'll also link her Ravelry shop for those international, you English speakers or international viewers as well, because I haven't gone through her patterns on Ravelry. I'm not sure that any of these patterns are on Ravelry, but why am I having such problems saying Ravelry today? So, and her name is Sidsel Høivik, and this book is called Vakker strikk, and that means beautiful knits, and they're truly beautiful. What she does is she starts with traditional Norwegian knitting patterns, and then she twists and turns them and make them into really special garments and accessories. And as you can see, I have a lot of markers in this book because I want to show you some really beautiful garments. If you see here, it's based on Norwegian traditional patterns, but she adds a lot of detail. She adds buttons, she adds sequins, beads, she adds embroidery on top, and I really want to make some of this stuff. You could, of course, use some of her embellishment techniques for a ready-made sweater. If you have a sweater that you want to decorate, you can use some of her techniques to do that. And this is really classy. It's based on Coco Chanel's jacket, and it's really fun. There's lots of beautiful photographs in here as well, and you have things like this. So she's really good with colors, and she does a lot of fun things, and I'm going to try to find the things I have marked. She also incorporates crochet in her designs. And she's really my cup of tea when it comes to colors as well. She uses loads of pinks, and she's really fond of lime green. So some of these things are really, I'm not sure that eccentric is the right word, but it's not things, it's things that I would really love to make because they're so beautiful, but I'm not sure I would wear them when they're finished. Again, based on a Norwegian traditional pattern, but she's added a lot of her own flair to it. You can see here when it's close up, you can see all the buttons and the embroideries and the beads, and she also has a pattern for the what you call it in English? But you see what I mean. And here you have a row of sweater sleeves. You can see all the different things she does with her sweaters to make them stand out and look different from the Norwegian traditional sweaters. And a sweater one of the sweaters I really would like to knit is this one. I really love the way that looks. The neck is really special on that one, and it has sequins and beads And the thing is, you don't have to add any of these things when you knit these sweaters. If I'm knitting one of the jackets in the front of the book, like this one, for example, I don't think I would add all the beads, the buttons and the sequins, but I would add the embroideries because they add a certain something extra to the garment. So this is one of the books I have by Sidsel Høivik. I have two. I haven't knit anything in any of them, but I have two. And these books are the sort of book that I would call coffee table books, because they are so beautiful, and you don't have to be a knitter to appreciate these books because they're so beautiful. This is also Sidsel Høivik, and it's called Lekre masker og lekne sting, and translated into English, beautiful stitches and playful sting. Also is stitches in English, but embroidery stitches, and masker is knitting stitches. So it's sort of difficult to translate the way it's supposed to be into English. And in here we have one jacket that I really would like to make. Again, she has mixed knitting and crochet in the one and the same garment, and this is what the back looks like close up. And I would love to make that, but there's a sea of stockinette in this thing, so that's why I'm thinking maybe not. And you have an example of her playful approach to buttons. She adds lots of buttons, different shapes and sizes, both to the bag and the dress. Or this is actually a sweater and a skirt, I think. And here is something she calls fritt etter fana, and that means free. I would say based on fana in English. And fana is a traditional, really well-known traditional Norwegian pattern, and she's based all these things on that pattern, but she's added her own flair to it. You can see what she's done with the checkerboard pattern at the end of the sleeves. She's put buttons on, she's embroidered flowers on them, and she's really had fun with them. And they're really special. And if you want to, and as I said, if you have a sweater in a traditional Norwegian pattern, either if you bought it already made or if you have knit one and you want to add something to it, I would use Sidsel Høivik as an example. And here again you have really fun dresses. And again, I'm never going to knit a dress, but this book is so beautiful, I love to go through them. And then you have åttebladsrosa, the typical Norwegian, I think you call it, it's based on a snowflake. You know, this motif that's really traditionally Norwegian. And she's based a lot of really cool designs on that. And she does all these embroideries up the sleeves, and she embellishes the pattern, so it makes it really special. And I would love to knit this cardigan. because there's lots of different fun things she does with them. And she also does more muted stuff like this. And that top is something I actually think I might knit. It's got the fun details at the bottom, and I think this is knit in a cotton yarn. Anyway, I would knit that in a cotton blend or something, because this is kind of summery. So I would knit that in a cotton blend, I think. So this is Sidsel Høivik. Those are the two books I have by Sidsel Høivik. And they're just beautiful to look through. So I'm going to link to her Ravelry shop down below. And you could look for the books. You could easily have this book just because it's beautiful, even if you don't understand Norwegian. But the patterns themselves, the descriptions on how to embroider the stuff, it's so much fun looking through these books. And that was it. That is not even, I think that's maybe a third of my knitting books. So you see, I have loads and loads and loads. But these are the books I wanted to talk about today. So I think I'm going to stop here. I hope you have a really nice weekend and that you enjoyed this little bonus episode.